amidst this recession, we had some good news, which was Tanzania attaining lower middle income status, something that was celebrated here. And I'm just curious to know what you think the main drivers were for us to achieve this status. And secondly, do you feel that the development objectives, as stated in the Tanzania Development Vision 2025, have been achieved? I think, Dr. Kilama, I'll come back to you on that. So the main drivers of us attaining lower middle income status.
When you put a target, you may reach it when you least expect it. You always celebrate when you reach it. The best thing you can do is always to analyze what does it really entail. My two colleagues have spoken very well on issues that we need to think about when we're thinking about recovery. The advantage that Tanzania has had for quite a while is we've had a diversified economy. And some of the parts of the economy that have been hit hard, you had them. And I think this was the advantage we had as to why we managed to reach the LMIC status. Reaching there is one thing. Staying there is something else. And understanding how you operate once you're there, I think is also very important. So for me, I think it's the macro, as we heard from the country director, the stabilities that we had through that. There have been a lot of policies that are supportive, that have enhanced are seeing the macro picture. But then I'll bring in my card as a researcher. It's one thing to grow. The question is, where are you really growing? So we have the agriculture bits, we have the industry bits and the services bits. And our data currently is showing the growth is coming pretty much in the industry side and in the services. And these are the less kind of like areas where you have less people engaged. But then importantly, on the services side, this is where Paul comes in with the innovation bits that is required. You have a lot of informality, but still we were growing with informality. But once COVID hit us, it's very difficult to reorganize within the informality. The biggest challenge that we are facing now will be how do we go about to ensure that we have more inclusion of young people, of women, of people who are different, because that has worked for us before. But the question is now, with COVID-19, it looks like it's hitting everybody, and importantly, the cream. Now back to your question. So I'll say just three things that have led to the growth that we've seen. So yes, we've had the macroeconomic stability brought in by the discipline to guarantee us the quality that we needed. But then second, we've had a lot of infrastructural investment helping to link up different sectors. And thirdly, lastly but not least, we've been more accountable in following up different interventions that are ongoing. It's something that has been going on for a while. It was good that it happened, but we really need to protect all that for it to continue.
Thank you, Dr. Kilama. Now, Professor, I saw you nodding in agreement when Dr. Kilama said it's one thing to attain the status, but it's another thing to maintain it.
Exactly.
What are your views on this?
Yeah, essentially when it comes to attaining this level, I take it mainly to be really mainly statistics issues. The reality on the ground is another thing. It is this gross national income divided by the population, and then we should understand as an average really. And when this news was announced, I received a lot of questions to common people saying, am I really a middle income person? So really, when you average, you find that there is a lot of outliers. There are a lot of, the low income people who have nothing to do with this, who will never be touched by this status. But broadly speaking, I think we achieved the status through, as Blandina said, decades of investment, decades of reforms. The reforms of the mid-1980s and early 1990s that changed, the business environment, that invited the private sector, both local and foreign, that, investment that we have seen in business environment, broadly speaking, in both legal, regulatory, and a policy framework on infrastructure, roads, ports, airports, all those. Those have enabled now production of goods and services across all sectors, in mining, in industry, in services sector, all those I think have been major drivers of, of us achieving this status. And you remember, we achieved this 5 years too early, to put it that way. 5 years too early. That's good. That's good news. But really, the question is sustainability, remaining there. Across history, we have over 20 countries that have never remained in the same status, that have slipped back, to either low, middle income, etc., etc. So the challenge really is remaining there, and COVID-19 poses that challenge now, because it's likely to erode incomes, jobs, and really people are still on, precariously balanced in the poverty line. So there is this danger really of remain here. We are not sure 5 years down the line whether we will still be here or will have gone down to lower middle income, and God forbid. So because we want, of course, to go up. And of course, the other thing that was related to this is, on whether Tanzania has achieved now what we wanted by 2025. For sure, no? In number of issues, yes. But then, among other things, we wanted to have a robust economy, a strong economy, competitive economy, well-skilled economy. But really, we are not there yet. And it's not an issue, because this is a journey. We are building Rome, and Rome is not built in a day. It's a work in progress.
Thank you very much, Professor. Paul Makanza, how do we prevent ourselves from slipping backwards?
Okay, I think my colleagues have actually touched on this on a number of interventions, but I just wanted to emphasize on the first question. The key driver over the last 2 decades was actually, massive investment into the economy, both private and the FDI, and as well as of recent times public investment. So the big infrastructure projects Dr. Blandina was talking about. Exports used to be an important driver, but it's declined over the last couple of years. 2013, 2019, it's been actually declining on average 5%, which is also worrying. So to sustain our make status, we really need to drive GNI, the gross national income, faster than the population growth, because those two are inversely related. Yeah. If you don't sort of manage your population well, and you have a population explosion, then gains tend to be eroded. Okay, but let me just focus on have we achieved our development visions, and I'd like to particularly focus on industry, because that's an area I'm familiar with. So basically, when we set out this vision, TDV 2025, we set ourselves particular targets for industry. Specifically, I'm talking manufacturing. So we said we want the manufacturing sector to grow by 12% come 2025. Okay, and we said by 2020 we should have achieved an 11% growth. But when you look at the actual numbers, 2019, where we have official figures, it's only 6%. So we are way behind. We would need to double our pace in order to get to that target. If you look at it in terms of share of GDP at current prices, again, we set out a target of 18%. We needed to be at 13% by 2020. We are only at 9%. Okay, again, we need to double our effort. Number of exporting firms, we had set a target of over 2,000 plus. But the report has highlighted that the number of exporting firms has actually fallen due to a number of issues. So essentially, we are not there. But as Professor said, this is a journey. Yeah. But it's pleasing. The government is actually revising its industrialization, integrated industrialization strategy, and I'm sure they will address some of the issues that has impeded, the pace of implementation. And one of the critical issues was the fact that when we had this integrated industrialization strategy, there was a lack of ownership. Was it Ministry of Industries? Was it Agriculture? Now, industry cuts across. Agriculture, you know, services are supporting, you know, enablers and so on. So there are a number of issues we would still need to implement, but we are very, very hopeful.